What screams insecurity but most people don't realize. When you achieve something or improve your life in any way and their first instinct is to tease or make fun of you, it actually screams instant jealousy. I went back to school and a judgmental friend said, "Wow, how old will you be when you're done?" I said probably the same age I'd be if I never went back. I graduated in 2021 with my first degree in electronics engineering. I was 52 years old. My mom said this when I told her and said it in a mocking tone. "Oh, now that you got a degree, don't you think you're too old to use it to get a job or use it for anything?" You never expect your own mother to be a jealous competitive jerk, but mine is because she is a narcissist. My husband finished his degree this year and his grandma, right after the ceremony, asked him when he was gonna get a real degree. "Right after you get yours, grandma. Fuck off." When they found a point that makes them look better than the other person and continue to overstay on that point. Edit. The situation is subjective, and I'm talking about the situation whereby the person punches down on someone to make themselves feel good. I did not mean for a person who requires positive affirmations. Always having something negative to say when something good happens to someone else. For example, "Oh, you're going to hate that new job," or "They should have done X instead." Just be happy that someone else is happy. My boyfriend does that. He's also the type that if you prove him wrong, he'll get really angry and storm off. He's gotten better, but it's been a long hard road. Edit. Had a lot of people who think I should walk away. I've known him for over 40 years, he was the best man at my wedding, best buds with my husband, and is the godfather to our kids. 99% of the time, he is the best thing I ever had and treats me a lot better than my husband ever did. He didn't realize how bad it was until after my husband passed. I understand this is a character fault, he's not going to change at this point, so I just smile to myself and think gotcha. He generally realizes his mistake after he does his research and apologizes. He's actually pretty kind and caring, even though he comes across as gruff. It's all an act. We are 59 and 62. It works. You don't walk away from someone who has a few flaws. BDIT2. The simple fact that this comment has triggered so many people really doesn't surprise me. All I said was one thing that annoys me. The pros in our relationship far outweigh the cons, and at the end of the day, that's what you have to go by. Check yourselves. Mic drop. I'm done. Taking a situation that was never about you or had you involved in it and somehow making it all about yourself and playing victim even though you had meddle in it and make yourself the victim. My wife's boss fired someone recently and has been going on for 3 days about how hard it was to do that. Even calling my wife at home to profess her broken emotional state over it. "Girl, you weren't the one who got fired before Christmas and you cold awaited the 2 weeks if it's so much on your conscience." Ugh, supervising people suxxx. And firing someone is the worst even if that person 100% deserves it. I swore off any job that included hiring and firing people after I had to let an employee go for drinking alcohol on premises. We gave her several chances to go to rehab, offered mental health support and personal time off all company paid so she would continue receiving 100% of her salary during recovery. She refused everything and denied drinking at work even though we had video evidence. Her son found her in her condo 2 weeks after I fired her. She had fallen down the stairs and died of a head injury. I still feel guilty every time I think about her. Rip Diane. I had a friend who would get insecure when my wife and I wanted to leave his house before he wanted to go to bed. Like, dude, it's 11 p.m. on a Wednesday and we live an hour away. Just because occasionally we're willing to stay till 1 doesn't mean we can today. He would blame my wife for us leaving and eventually he built up enough unspoken resentment to burn the whole friendship down. Did he want you to tuck him into bed and kiss his forehead? I really like that phrase, unspoken resentment, because it describes perfectly my relationship with some of my friends. I've got a few friends who I met in high school and used to hang out with all the time, but we just drifted apart because we changed over time. I suspect 2 of them secretly talk about me behind my back and insult me because they did this with another person in our friend group, then when he was gone, they suddenly started treating me differently. I talk to them like once every few weeks now and I see them in person once every few months. One of them owes me money. Once that money is paid, I'm probably never speaking to him again. On the flip side, being open about your insecurities and really trying to overcome them is a great character trait. I see a lot of comments here branding common insecurities as red flags, and I don't think one should consider insecurities inherently evil. Being insecure doesn't make you a bad person. It's how you let your struggles control you that defines whether they are problematic or not. That is something I only realized as I got older. Everyone has their hang-ups. What I look for in a person is if they have insight into their issues and they are working to make themselves better. Having no insight into yourself and your issues is bad, but not as bad as having the insight and refusing to change your behaviors for the better. Never apologizing. Some people will twist the story, change the way it happened, and retell it so convincingly that they'll believe their own nonsense, but will never apologize. I struggle with this into my early 30s. Not from a place of narcissism or gaslighting, I hope, but something that came out during therapy. My dad would frequently say, "Sorry isn't good enough" to me whenever I did something bad or wrong. It really punched me in the face when I realized that him instilling into me that apologizing wasn't good enough really made it hard for me to do that as an adult. Therapy is wild, man. I struggle with the same actually. But I was also told that I was making excuses every time I tried to explain myself. I experience a small catastrophe every time someone points out something wrong I've done in person. I told my dad I'd put myself in a timeout after I got mad and broke something in front of my toddler. My reasoning being that you have to practice what you preach, right? His response: never tell your kid that you are wrong. It made me realize his "I'm right you're wrong" required obedience was why I'd always folded before authority, hate getting into serious conversations where I have to defend myself, always would back down from an employer and not stand up for myself. When I was older he'd say you have to stick up for yourself, but Dad, what did you condition me towards for my entire childhood? Not to dig too hard on my dad, because we're all often good and shitty at the same time. Wow, that's my relationship with my mom to a T. Explains so much about my personality. And then she wonders why both her kids are depressed and anxious. Constantly talking shit on other people for an inflated sense of self-worth. Used to have a friend that was really fixated on badmouthing a specific girl. With time I realized that everything my friend hated about this other girl were things she actually did as well, so she was just insecure about her own flaws and projecting. That friendship didn't last long. I had a roommate good friend, and almost every time she irritated me and got under my skin, it was because she was doing something that I do that I don't like about myself. It was very eye-opening. Explaining how smart you are. One with your intellect just cannot comprehend the astute difference of my mental superiority. You use that word comprehend wrong. I'd explain it to you, but you wouldn't get it. We'll burn that bridge when we get there. When they can give you shit all day but can't take it back whatsoever. Man, I have an employee like this. He ribs people and talks shit all day long. The instant someone fires a shot back it's the end of the world. 48-year-old crybaby. Isil in a nutshell, she gives everyone shit all the time, the second people dish it back she can't take it. And let me guess. He complains that everyone is so sensitive nowadays and that no one can take a joke. Insulting your friend in front of others to be cool. Back in my single days, a lot of guys who came up to me in bars and clubs and such would insult their friend to me, as if that would make me interested in the insulter. Non merci. It was 4D chess to make you interested in the insultee. Sometimes, the insults came after I asked who's your friend. Oh, that handsome idiot over there. Don't worry about him, he thinks he's better than everyone else, just because he's the CEO of a big company, don't worry about it. He's such a douche, man. The other day he saw this girl drowning in a lake and he went and saved her. Without her permission, like a perv. Putting other people down and bragging. Never trust a friend who speaks ill of his comrades. One of my coworkers trashes everyone we work with, and finally one day I asked him what he called me when he was discussing me with others. Exactly. I have a neighbor like this. Has something to say about every other neighbor. One day when she was particularly annoying I said, "I wonder what you tell them about me." She avoided me after that. They are so used to not being called out that they freeze up and then go silent. So please keep calling out bullies. Jealousy over little things. Ain't nobody ever gotten jealous over my penis. I'm jealous of your penis because you have one and I want it. Hand it over, bucko. In terms of leadership, it's when someone can't or won't take input from the rest of their team and tries to act like they have all the answers. I was this type of insecure leader once, and I thought that if I used the idea of someone with less experience, then everyone would think I was a weak leader. But after I was removed from that position I had to work for a lot of managers who did a lot of the same stupid shit that I was doing, but magnified due to years of insecurity habit karma. I have since learned that if I hear people out, discuss a course of action, go with other people's ideas, and especially give them credit, you gain exponentially more influence and respect. That even people who have little experience should have their input considered. I feel horrible for the people who had to work with me, but now I don't just act like a more capable leader, I am a more capable leader. Shakespearean TLDR: take every man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. Good on you for figuring this out. Currently dealing with a new manager like this. I tried telling her how our team felt about a certain project she put on us which was not feasible for a number of reasons, but she didn't want to hear it. So I had to go above her head to her manager to get it axed. I really hope she learns this lesson soon. I used to have a boss like that. System admin, the guy knows little about computers and he tells us to do obviously wrong stuff. At first I thought it was a joke, but he was serious and he was former military, so his instructions were intended as orders. That crashes the system, do it now he says, and so I went into the data center and caused a major outage of a system that troops overseas actually rely on being up at all times. Thing is, he learned quick and actually grew to be the best boss I ever had. It took the better part of a year, but he got better and actually that military stuff was applied to our benefit. Like military guys take responsibility for the failure of people under their command and then reprimand you privately, but in public it was their fault. Most places I've worked, shit rolls downhill and the guy on the bottom takes the blame for everything. He unlearned all that top-down command chain stuff and let the admins do their job. If we're confident, then he'd express that confidence to management. He also expanded staffing, none of this skeleton crew shit, if one person doesn't show up that shouldn't be a disaster. Great guy, but he was absolutely insufferable at first. Talking over others. It's a quality that seems confident, but in reality the underlying reason is usually that the interrupting person is just trying to prove something and has zero interest in what you have to say. When they can't make fun of themselves. Edit. Holy yes, the opposite is just as bad, I know. I've literally gotten that same comment about 100 times. Please stop Redditors, my notifications can't handle it. I had a coworker like this. He loved nothing more than to mock other people and poke fun at them. If you said anything about him here and to HR so fast Wally West would be jealous. We all got pulled into a meeting one day without him and were told that we were not allowed under any circumstances to poke fun at him. We could with anyone else on the team and that was fine but not him. Not ever. Not under any circumstances. He continued to mock us all the time and he continued to pile on any time anyone on the team was being mocked for something, but we were not allowed to say anything back to him. It sucked so bad. Document. Have everyone do it. Then go to HR as a group. We did that actually. HR didn't care. They coached him and the behavior just continued. Eventually people just iced him out and he was too dumb to realize it. He'd try to butt into conversations and we'd just turn our backs and walk away and he didn't even get it. Management tried to get him fired multiple times, but the problem is the guy showed up on time and made widgets. There was nothing at all wrong with his work performance other than he could not get along with any of his coworkers or any of his managers. HR said you couldn't fire someone just because he doesn't get along with anyone and he's a cancer to the team. This guy would go around behind people's backs and try to undermine them and everything. He was widely hated by everyone at the end and even then HR wouldn't fire him. Management just went out of their way to make things harder and harder for him and eventually he just quit and everyone was happy. I'm sure he's torturing people at his new job now. When people one-up you. Ugh, I hate this. I felt so ill I was off work for 2 days and stayed in bed the whole time. Well, I had my torso blown off in Vietnam and I was back to work the next day.